All right. It looks like we got some questions coming in here. I mean, that's really, I would say, probably all I had on my end as far as like sharing hopefully good information to people that are watching to increase their profits. Unless you guys had any last minute tips and tricks, then we can jump here into the Q&A. So who wants to start for the first question?
I think it says
This is
he's
for you.
calling for you, Will.
Yeah.
Oh, I guess it's me. All right. Austin Eberly says, "Hey, Will, I work at a bank full time and have been doing lawn care on the side for about a year. I only have time on Thursday and Friday evenings and all day Saturday. Um, I mean, I think that's somewhat normal for people that are just starting out, that they have limited amount of time. I would just try to cram as much I can on those days off as possible. If you're looking to replace that, I think this is his question now. So how hard will it be? Will it be to go full time, do you think? I mean, I don't think it'll be that hard. Obviously, depending on where you're at, you may be in a seasonal business. So like just be careful if you go full time during a season, because for us, all of our workload gets cut into a 1/3 come the winter time. And so you want to be prepared for that when you're going full time, to just know like, hey, you either need to A, put some money aside, or B, really ramp it up in the busier season, because you know all of your workload is pretty much going to get cut into 1/3 come December, January, February. But again, that might change based on your geographical location. So just be mindful of that. Obviously, try to max out the 2 or 3 days a week that you have already. And then once you get there, I'd say if it's at the beginning of like spring and you're already at 2 or 3 days, like, yeah, let's go. Let's put all our eggs into it and run with it. But if you're going into like the slower season, you may want to wait to step away from the full-time job, because again, you know everything's going to pretty much get cut into a third. So
Yeah.
all right. Sam, how about you take this one away? This one's from your wife.
Who's this lady? How do you balance off season now that we are entering the winter months? The goal is to never have an off season. That's the ultimate goal. But since my wife is the one that has asked this, I think you should really prioritize hanging out with your wife.
Yeah,
Yes.
good answer.
Great answer. Very good answer, Sam.
That's a good answer. Politically correct answer. So how do you balance off season now that we are entering the winter months? I think the goal is to take a reset. Like now is going to be the time to not kick your feet up for lack of sense, but this would be a really good time to work on the things that you've been too busy to work on during the peak season, like dialing in systems, figuring out automations. Where can we increase our efficiencies operationally and with an admin, stuff like that. So that's going to be a really good thing to focus on in the off season to set yourself up for success in the following growth season. I think also keeping your A players happy if you can do that, keep your A players happy in the off season. What we got into this spring of 2024 is we basically started from scratch. As of March, our like newest employee, because we lost an employee to a GM, which is fine. But for our main location, the most tenured employee come March was like 2 months. And so we had to train everybody up for all of this year, which by God's grace, it worked out fine. But if you can keep your A players happy throughout the offseason so that they can come and be already trained up and become trainers, that's a quick lever you can pull. And so that's how I would balance the offseason.
Yeah, I agree. And to add to that, so I have this blackboard. Actually, it's when I was in this office, I have like a separate blackboard that like it says like off season, like tasks, and I would just write it down. You know what I mean? Whether that's on your board or like in your CRM or something like that, to-dos, whatever. I think that's really important because there's like hundreds of things during the season when you're so busy, you're like, I got to get to that, but we just don't have the time. Now that we don't have the time, we need to be able to do those weird off tasks that are important, that definitely need to get done. So very good.
I'm going to share a video link to Austin Eberly. I did a video probably 2 or 3 years ago on when to go full time. And so I'm just going to add that in the chat if Austin is still watching.
Yeah, good idea. All right. Caleb?
Stature Adams, what is the best size mower for residential? I'm asking about stand on and zero turns. So this really just depends on the majority of your market or your client base. I would say if 80% of your market or client base is small residential homes, um, I'd probably just go for like a 21-inch or a 30-inch mower. Just depends. But if they're, let's say, above 8,000 square feet, uh, an average size, you might want to go for like a small stand-on zero turn, like a 32-inch. Again, it really just depends on what most of your customer base is. I would say if it's 80% small, tiny residential, you should probably have your entire setup just be 21-inch mowers.
We've
Absolutely.
we've ran production rates. If you are servicing lawns that are like 8,000 square feet and less, compared to a 21, if you had two 21-inch push mowers for a two-person crew on a truck versus one stand-on and a 21-inch push mower, the production rates are changed by like 1 minute. And so if you're actually looking at cost for equipment versus trying to become efficient, there's really not a big lever you can pull with getting a stand-on mower versus a 21-inch push mower at 8,000 square feet and less. Um,
Yeah.
the lever that you pull is you can get more done in a day because you save like the wear and tear on your feet where you're not pushing. So you could work longer hours. You can do a 10-hour day instead of a 7-hour day. But actual time on property doesn't change much under 8,000 square feet.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's really interesting to me because honestly, Sam, this is one of the biggest questions I get. They're like, should I get a zero? And like, dude, they ream me in the comment section. All love, but they ream me in the comment section about how we only use 21-inch mowers and we got to get a stand on. So that's really interesting that you ran the math on that and found that it was only a 1 minute difference.
Yeah, like
So,
one or 2 minutes. Yeah.
yeah. So I've done this myself too. I actually had a stand-on mower for my market, my area that like back in the beginning of my business, I bought a 32-inch Skag stand-on. Like this was an amazing mower. Like I love this thing. Kind of wish I still had it, but it like literally there would be properties where it would have been faster just to stay on the 21-inch mower. It would have
Interesting.
been better. Or I would have like saved a minute. I'm like, I'm spending all this money on maintenance. I've got to have this trailer, all this extra stuff. It's like the
Yeah.
costs just outweigh the benefit,
So
especially for these tiny little properties. Plus the damages. We would tear up lawns. There would be damaged fences, like damaged a van and stuff. Like it's
yeah.
crazy.
But, like, even with all of that additional, like, repairs and flat tires and stuff like that, because you don't get that with 21-inch mower, but that doesn't offset the labor needed of 2 guys pushing the mower, because when I look at a P&L, the labor is the most expensive thing on the line item. So, like, if I can replace it with, a larger mower or something like that to bring my labor costs down, it's still, like, from a pure financial standpoint too, like, it's that close, you think?
Um,
All expenses included, right? So like if you have 2 guys on a mower and you're paying them labor and, wear and tear on the equipment versus 1 guy with the stand on, right? So from a speed standpoint, you're saying there's a minute difference, but from the financial standpoint of like cutting down your labor because now you have 1 guy who can be like way more productive. You know what I mean? Have you like
yes.
ran that?
Yeah, I don't have those numbers in front of me. I haven't ran it necessarily, but
Mm.
there's like there's hidden examples or hidden answers in this question because time on property doesn't change much, but you get more done in a day, if that makes sense. Because you can work longer hours versus just 6 hours. So you have guys pushing lawns, Will, in 100-degree heat, where we have, and you guys get out in 6, 7 hours in a day, where we have guys working 10, 11 hours in a day, only 4 days a week. And so there's like just looking at efficiency doesn't tell the whole story. Additionally, if you had two mirror companies, you had Troops Mowing and then you had Vets Mowing, which sides that was the first name of my company, and I couldn't get it incorporated because they wanted congressional approval. So you had Vets Mowing and Troops Mowing. Um, Vets Mowing uses all push mowers. They pay the exact same benefits, same everything. And then you have Troops Mowing. It does. They do stand-ons. if you had a rock star employee apply at both companies, they're going to go with the company doing stand-ons. And so it's a way for a company to attract better talent because nobody wants to push them all day. Everybody wants to be on a stand-on. It just saves their feet wear and tear. So there's hidden benefits, although time on property doesn't change much below 7,000 or 8,000 square feet. Now above 8,000 square feet, like we have a threshold of 12,000 square feet. We are not going to mow 12,001. But from 8 to 12,000, the stand-on makes a huge difference. Huge difference. And so there's hidden complexities in that altogether. But I think you just have to ask yourself, are you willing to spend $9,000 on a stand down to attract better talent? Or if you are a solo operator, you have to get a stand down 100%.
Yeah.
You're the one that wants to save the wear and tear on your feet. But if you got guys out there, $9,000 for a mower multiplied by 4 crews, it's not fun to pay for that.
Yeah. No, you have it dialed in because honestly, because we only use 21-inch mowers, we don't go above its 8,500 turf.
Yeah.
So we're right there at that 8,000, 8,500, where it's like, that's the point where it's like, nah.
Yeah.
That you need a different piece of equipment to be more efficient and stuff like that. So sometimes we'll get like a pie shape one that's like on a cul-de-sac, and it's like, yeah, 9,000. And we're like, sorry,
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Very cool. All right. So I think it's back to me. Morgan Gustin said, what are your goals for 2025? This is a really good question, Morgan, because normally we sit down and do our goals in like December-ish, maybe early January. More so, yeah, probably Christmas break. So to be honest, we haven't even sat down yet and gone through our 2025 goals. We're still trying to close out 24. Have you guys looked into your 2025 goals?
I have a revenue goal.
All right. What is your
I haven't like gone into the specifics, like the small little nuances, but the revenue goal is 600,000.
Nice. And so what are you going to finish off this year with?
325.
325. Okay, cool. Yeah, that'll be a good. So basically you have to double what you're pretty much doing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Good stuff. Sam?
Yeah, for us, we have a revenue goal. It's not so much a goal as of yet. It's just like figuring out what our assets can probably do next year. And our goal would be to max out those assets, I guess. Yeah. So our revenue goal would be anywhere from like 1.5 to 1.9 million for 2025. I also want to dial in how to properly train regional managers because I want that if you have a regional manager, then there's really no need for a CEO, right? So just trying to build that org chart out and make everything scalable and as efficient as possible.
Yeah, this is why I love that you and I are like right at the similar pace, because that's what I need to dial into is like the general manager training. In fact, I just asked Mike in the co-pilot thing, and I'm like, hey, how long am I supposed to be doing, 2 a week coaching calls with my GM? And he's like, if you're doing 2 a week coaching calls, he's probably not trained up enough. Yeah. So I think, and then basically what he said was like, focus on like training him better. So that way, when you plug him into the system, you don't have to be as more hands-on. So where I was telling you, like, hey, let's try to get him trained up in like a week. Maybe we need to extend the training to like 2 weeks or 3 weeks ish, but make sure that like when they get out of that 2 or 3 week, they're like they know what they need to do. And then it's less of us being hands-on. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I won't say the name of the person that I was talking to just for the sake of, I don't know if they want me to put it out there, but I think you know who I was talking to about the GM thing. They said that at that size of company, they still don't have the GM training dialed in. And so he was basically like, you have to give yourself grace and the awareness that you're not going to figure it out within a year, because this company's doing $70 million a year and they still don't have GM training dialed in. They're certainly have, it's good. The GM training they have is good and it works, but it's not perfect. And so he's just like, you're going to just have to give yourself a lot of grace there.
Yeah, it's a good point. Very good point. All right. I think Sam's next, so you could take this one.
What do you think is the best way to remove leaves? Satcher, So we don't even really remove leaves. So we live in a lot of newer developments, or a lot of our customers are newer developments. So we just mulch them up with the mowers. Depending on where you're at in the country, I know leaves are a big issue for like Midwest and those northern states. What I see a lot of people do is they either put it all on like a tarp and drag it to the bed of their truck and take it to the dump after, or they have like attachments that you can have like a tarp attachment and like blow all the leaves into this big tarp. Or you can like blow everything to the side of the road and use a billy goat and suck everything up into a dump trailer. There's really a lot of ways you can do it. Just from a business standpoint, because although I don't do this service barely ever, from a business standpoint, my advice to you, Satcher, would be to place a priority on your production rates. So that way you can go forward confidently in the future with pricing. So this year, figure out a way that you want to remove the leaves. Say, I'm going to commit to this route for next few years, and then collect data on your production rates.
Absolutely. Good stuff.
Yeah, just to go off that, by the way, if you want to do leaf removal cheaply, you don't want to buy expensive equipment like a billy goat or something. You could use something called a quick can. Is KWIK can. Basically, it's a portable trash can, and you could pretty much take a trash bag and turn it into an actual trash can. It's pretty cool, and it's super portable. Take a couple of these, line them up. Um, Try to blow the leaves into like a corner of the home. This is what I usually do, and then take your rake and you could just literally like rake it into the portable can. It's made to do that. Just type it in. It's KWIKKAN. Quick can. They're like $25 at Home Depot. They're amazing.
Yeah, great point. Great, really good point. The other thing too, Satcher, because I've looked into this a lot as well. We looked at getting all the big billy goats and the vacuum sucker and the big trailer and all this stuff. And you want to ask yourself asset utilization. How many months out of the year are you going to use that equipment? If it's only going to be for leaf cleanup season, which is for us like a month and a half, maybe 2 months, and it's going to sit in the unit for 10 months, I'm probably not going to buy it. Or I'm going to look at renting it if I really need something like that. But to be honest, we just use our backpack blowers and blow it into a corner and then use trash bags and rake it up. Probably not the fastest way. In fact, I know it's not the fastest way, but we use the blowers the other 9 months out of the year for mowing anyway, so we don't have to buy any extra equipment. You know what I mean? That just sits there. So plus we do the small lawns, so it's nothing like too crazy.
Satcher, do any of you guys do pressure washing as well? I was wondering if pressure washing is a good service to offer. I actually used to do this whenever I started my business. I used to be like jack of all trades. I did like window cleaning, pressure washing. Like I was on like 2 stories up, like cleaning windows. I was like shaking because I don't like being up high. Um, so I mean, it just depends on your goals. Like if you want to do that, as I would say, that's like a solo activity. If you want to scale your company, I would try to figure out like what you're good at, where you want to be at, and then just go all in on that instead of trying to do like the landscaping, the pressure washing, the windows, and all these different. These are all different businesses, right? But it just depends on your goals. If you want to be solo, sure, you can have that. But if you want to scale and grow a company, you're going to want to simplify and go all in on one thing.
Yeah, Caleb's spot on. Hey, Satcher, if you're still watching, leave a comment on if you're solo. If you're not, how many employees do you have? What do you anticipate the end of this year doing for top line revenue for you? I'm curious where you're at, because basically to follow up what on Caleb said, the answer would depend on your goals and where you're currently at this year. If you are going to, okay, so solo, yeah, so you're fine doing that. If you have plans of growing, I would recommend that be a service that you only do in the off season to keep your guys busy.
Yeah, really good points. Really good points. Tingle's Lawn Care or Lawn Service. I'm sorry. What do you guys do for health insurance? Do you offer insurance to your employees? Us personally, we do not do health insurance. You could, I believe, go through QuickBooks if that's what you're using and get some kind of health insurance plan. I just know it's really expensive. We do, however, offer other insurance. So we use a company called, oh man, I can't think of the name of it right now, but just any kind of like insurance company that like gives commercial insurance to employees and stuff. So we have a package where it's like they can get life insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, just not like the big one, which is health insurance, which is what most people kind of want. But it's nice to give an additional benefit to people of like if they want to opt in and get dental insurance, life insurance, vision insurance, there's cancer insurance, there's disability insurance. So again, if somebody if they get into an accident on their way home and they break their foot or something, or they break it playing basketball on the weekend, if they had disability insurance with our company, the insurance company would pay them out 75% of their paycheck for the 2 or 3 months that they can't work, right? That gives some security to the field members that partake in that. So we do offer that for them, and it's kind of nice. But yeah, we just don't do health insurance. Do you guys?
Is that like supplemental insurance like Aflac?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, we've thought about doing that too.
Yeah, it's a nice offer to capture new leads.
Yeah.
When you say, hey, we do offer benefits, because some people that's important. And then you obviously would just have to explain like, hey, it just healthcare is the only one that we recommend if you're with your spouse, get on with her, or, if they're a younger generation, like, 20, 25 years old, hey, can you get on with your parents still with their insurance? And most of the time they get by doing that, a lot of our team.
Yeah. Have you put any thought into doing like SEP IRA or simple IRA?
Very, very small amount, but honestly, at the time when we were talking about it, we had such high turnover in our company that it probably didn't really make sense. But I think maybe down the road, maybe like 3 to 4 years from now, once we get like a little bit bigger, where we have 3, 4, 5 locations, and then we really have established like career places for people where they're making really good, living, I think that would probably make more sense. But when we're dealing with kind of frontline field members, it's hard. Like, I know the importance of an IRA and investing for, like, I know that, but sometimes it's really hard for those team members to like know that or buy into that when you're, because like a lot of them are just today, right? It's hard for me to sell a vacation giveaway 6 months from now. They you know what I mean? They're not always thinking that way. So I've thought about it, but I think maybe down the road would
I
make sense.
put a little bit of like effort into looking into that. It's really good for us as business owners to like do that because it helps us out individually, because we can do our Roth IRA separately, but then we can also kind of double dip and do like a SEP IRA or simple IRA. I'm going to probably get this wrong, since it's been about 6 months since I looked into it, but you can have like the only eligible employees are ones that have been with us for 3 years or something. So then you're still able to pay yourself a SEP IRA or a second IRA if you're doing that Roth IRA personally, while only offering that to employees that have been with you for 2 or 3 years. And so that's a good way to kind of keep people on, because there's hidden costs in that turnover. But it's also a way to kind of pad your pockets for your retirement.
Yeah,
Personally.
that makes sense. I didn't know you could put those parameters in, because I would have just thought it like from a logistical standpoint. Now, maybe I'm not doing the onboarding or whatever, but logistically within the first 3 years, that's where a lot of the turnover is anyway. So if like they come in for like 12 months and then they like sign up for the plan and now they got to leave, we got to, you know what I mean? That just might be a lot of admin stuff, but
for sure,
that makes sense to me, putting that parameter in for sure. So, all right, I think this one's yours, Sam.
All right. So what are some good KPIs to track other than close rate? This is probably I love this question. I'm a KPI nerd. So close ratio is super important, like you said, but obviously you already know that, Bree. Some of my favorite KPIs that I like to track is labor efficiency. Labor efficiency is arguably one of the more important KPIs, I would imagine. But additionally, like what we don't necessarily track this, but we incentivize employees off of this metric, which is what we call contribution score. So labor efficiency only tells a part of the picture. Like if you've completed 3 budgeted hours and 4 clocked hours, you're 75% efficient, but you've only completed 4 budgeted hours. Like, what are we doing? Contribution score is labor efficiency multiplied by budgeted hours completed. That's going to get you who your top performers truly are, the people that are being efficient and getting a lot of work done. So contribution score is something we like to track as well. Direct labor. We like to track direct labor percentages because that has a huge implication on your gross profit. That's like Will said, it should be the biggest expense on your profit and loss statement. And if you're having direct labor over 50%, you're not going to have a very profitable company. We like to keep our direct labor underneath 40%. So if everything kind of works out how it should work out, our direct labor is around 33 to 36%. And that's where I like to be. We also like to keep track of the percentage of distributable income. This is probably more so for people who are acting as a general manager or are trying to take cash out of their bank. Having that metric is huge. Another thing is effective hourly rate. So how much are you effectively making per clocked hour? And you want to tie that number to your break even point per clocked hour. And so if your effective hourly rate is less than your break even point, you're losing money. If it's more than your break even point, you're making money. One thing that we don't necessarily track, but I think would be a good thing to track, is overhead to direct labor ratio. You don't want to have more overhead salary than you have direct labor payroll. So we probably want like a 1-to-4 ratio on overhead to direct labor. So that'd be another good thing that you could track. And that's pretty much, there's probably like 12 or 15 things that we actually do track. But I think if I had to pick like 5 or 6 other than close ratio, that would be it.
Yeah, that's great. Those are great stuff. I think this one's mine. Austin Eberly, how much higher should my revenue goal be over my personal expenses as a solo guy? How much higher should my revenue goal be? I mean, you got to be careful with this, right? Because your revenue goal doesn't account for all the expenses that come out that need to come out of the business. So like whether you're paying yourself, whether you're paying, fuel costs, insurance, overhead, all of that stuff has to come out. So to compare the two, like I don't think that's a good necessarily like comparison per se, because it's like I don't know if I would make that decision based off of just the revenue. Is like you have to figure, like, our second location is going to do 125,000 this year, and it's not going to make any money. Like it went backwards. So like you can't necessarily make a transitional decision of like going full time based off of that revenue goal. Hopefully that kind of makes sense. You really need to kind of sit down. What I did, Austin, my first like year, I created an Excel spreadsheet, something very simple, or you can do QuickBooks and just literally like every time you purchase something, like track your expenses. Like that's the number one thing that you can do, because then you'll be able to really identify if you can make that transition, because you need to know what your revenue is minus your expenses. That's what's left over that you can actually like live off of. That kind of makes sense.
I think you could probably backwards plan that. You're right, Will, but I also think you could backwards plan that.
Yeah.
So, for example, you would start off with how many budgeted hours can I complete, or how many clocked hours am I willing to work in a week? Let's say that's 40. And if you're 75% efficient, that means that you can do 30 budgeted hours in a week. And multiply that by 52, whatever that comes out to. Let's say that your personal expenses are $5,000 a month. You can break that down into saying like, if what's my labor rate going to be, multiplied by 30, multiplied by 52, like that's the max that you can do. Right? So then you have to just ask yourself, is that revenue enough to cover all of my expenses for the business and to cover my personal expenses? If the answer is no, you have to get an employee or you have to raise your labor rate.
Yeah, you're right. Because it says over my personal expenses. So this is assuming that he knows what his personal expenses is. The only other key aspect to this would be you just got to know your business expenses too. If you can know that 100%, then that would make sense. Awesome. All right, this one's you, Sam.
All right,
this is the last one, by the way.
Last one. Next year, I will be getting a part-time employee. What should be my expectations? How many do you think I will have to go through to get a decent one? And what should I pay them? I had a miserable first employee. So it took me a few swings to get a good one. I would basically just expect that you're going to have a headache. I would kind of identify like what are your non-negotiables out of an employee and and live by them. So it's like, am I willing to put up with them being late? Yes. Okay. If no, then like hire slow, fire fast is the saying. Um, and I would just try to get somebody who's money motivated and who you like to be with. Like if you don't like them at all in the interview, don't hire them because you're going to be with them in the truck the entire day. So find someone who's money motivated and that you're willing to spend a whole day with would be my thing.
Absolutely. Anything to add to that, Caleb? Or
Yeah, no, same with Sam. Like my first employee was a nightmare. Like I had him for about a year and it was just totally terrible. Your first employee is probably not going to be your best employee, but you got to start somewhere. So this is a good point, good place to start.
yeah,
You'll definitely be going through quite a few to find a decent one, though, I will say that.
yeah, just a numbers game. Even like when we're talking about doing the GM training, like after the 5th GM, the training's not going to be outstanding. But after the 50th GM, I'm sure it's going to be significantly better, and you just dial it in. As long as that's all business is, like every day, as long as you get a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better, a little bit better. And all of a sudden, week, month, year goes by, and all of a sudden your business is like crushing it. But nobody sees just the small increment improvements that you're doing in your business every day, So
yeah. And I realized I didn't answer that last part of the question. So what should I pay them? The rule of thumb is take your labor rate, divide it by 4, and that's going to be your base pay. And if that number comes out less than 15, I would raise your labor rate. So I would say wherever you live, call McDonald's, see how much they're paying per hour, add $2 to it. That should be your base pay. Multiply that by 4. That should be your labor rate.
I like it. I like it.
Simple.
Good stuff. Good stuff. All right, guys, that was the last comment that we had today. So a couple small, quick announcements here as we wrap up. Thank you guys, everybody that's live watching us and spending your Saturday with us. Sam, our good friend here, has a coaching is it a coaching training? Like, can you maybe kind of jump into that just a little bit and then maybe give us a snapshot of like who the ideal person that you think would benefit tremendously from your coaching?
Yeah. So if you follow me on YouTube, it's the Sam Gustin. That's Gustin. I post just content, and I'm trying to get as good as Will, but we're getting there slowly but surely. My coaching program, what I do is, I kind of offer personalized and customized coaching to people. There's 2 different programs. One's $250 a month, and then one is $1,500 every quarter. That comes out to about $500 a month. If you're basically trying to scale up to 500,000, you're going to want to go with the $250 one. You get my unlimited attention. You get my personal email. You basically get my cell phone. You get a 30-minute call once a month, and you can pick my brain through text and email the rest of the month. The other one is I will actively monitor your KPIs. You get a template you get access to all the templates we use for text, email, invoices, and estimates. You get all the calculators. Like if you were here at the beginning of the call, you get that calculator. You get a CEO dashboard, and you kind of just get an overview of all of our automations that we do to run $1 million a year company. And so if you're trying to scale to $1 million and past, that would be the best option for you.
Yeah, just so everybody knows, Sam's a wizard with automations, my friend. This dude's got an app. He's got all kinds of stuff going on the back end. So he's solid. Like when it comes to automations and stuff, he's helped build me some automations on the back end that have made my life way easier to get us closer to that 1-to-6 admin ratio, which is the goal to keep the overhead low. So, but yeah, no, we definitely appreciate you guys coming on. Caleb, thank you for joining us. And for everybody that's watching, we do this every single month on Saturday. If you are just getting started and you have no money and doesn't even matter, we're here to help you. Jump on a Q&A with us. It's completely free. Take advantage of it. In the comments, leave your questions every Saturday. No, not every Saturday. Once a month, every Saturday, we do the live Q&A. So take advantage of it, and it's all for you guys to help grow your lawn and landscape business. So thank you guys so much for jumping on. And
Yes, sir.
Satcher Adams says, thanks, guys.
Thank you, Satcher.
Thank you guys for joining us, and we'll see you next time.